Have you ever had that feeling? That little whisper from your body? Just a subtle shift a few days before your period is due that makes you stop and wonder, what is going on in there? Well, today we're going to decode those very first, almost secret messages of a potential pregnancy. Let's dive right in. This is the big question, isn't it? The one that probably has you searching online in the middle of the night. Can you actually know you're pregnant before a test can even tell you? Well, the answer isn't a simple yes or no, but we're about to unpack all the science and the symptoms to get as close to the truth as we can. All right, let's get right into the good stuff. What are the actual physical signs you can be on the lookout for? We're going to break down 6 of them, and some of these can pop up as early as 3 days before you even expect your period. And just so you know, these aren't just guesses, they are all rooted in real biology. Okay, first up is fatigue. And I'm not talking about your typical long day at the office tired. Oh no, this is a deep, just bone-weary exhaustion that seems to hit you out of absolutely nowhere. The kind where you could sleep for a solid 8 hours and still feel like you've been run over by a truck by 10 in the morning. It's a total energy wipeout. So what is the deal with this sudden exhaustion? Well, you can thank our main culprit, the hormone progesterone. In the very early days of pregnancy, your levels of this hormone just skyrocket to help support the uterine lining. But a major side effect of that, it's basically a natural sedative. Your body is working in absolute overdrive, and you are definitely feeling it. Sign number 2 is one a lot of us are familiar with, but it can feel, well, different in early pregnancy. We're talking about breast tenderness. This can mean increased sensitivity, a little bit of swelling, maybe even a heavy or tingly feeling. It's that moment you put on your favorite bra and suddenly realize it feels a whole size too small. And yep, you guessed it, hormones are running the show again. They're getting the milk glands ready way, way ahead of schedule. But here's the key way to tell it apart from PMS. That pre-period tenderness usually fades as you get closer to your period. This pregnancy-related tenderness, though, it tends to be more intense and it sticks around. It doesn't really let up. Sign number 3 might have you suddenly mapping out every single bathroom in your vicinity. Frequent urination. All of a sudden, you're making extra trips all day long, and maybe you're even waking up in the middle of the night, which is totally not your usual thing. And trust me, it's not just in your head. Your actual blood volume increases during early pregnancy, which means your kidneys are working overtime to process a lot more fluid. And all that extra fluid, well, it has to go somewhere. The really important way to tell this isn't a UTI, it's usually just about the frequency, without any of that telltale pain or burning. Now for a really tricky one, cramping. It is so easy to just write this off as your period getting ready to start. But early pregnancy cramping often feels different. It's usually a lot milder, more like a light pull or maybe a quick little twinge, and it tends to come and go instead of being that constant dull ache. This particular feeling actually has a name. It's called implantation cramping. It's thought to be the sensation of the embryo actually attaching itself to the lining of the uterus. This usually happens about 1 to 2 weeks after fertilization, which puts it right in that little window before your period is due. You might even notice some very light pink or brown spotting along with it. So let's break down the differences here, because this can be a huge clue. Implantation cramps, think light, on and off, and centered really low in your abdomen. Period cramps, we all know those. They're usually more intense, they stick around, and they can even radiate to your lower back. Spotting this difference can be a real game changer. Okay, next up, sign number 5. This one is all in your head. Literally, we're talking about mild but kind of persistent headaches or that dizzy, lightheaded feeling you might get if you stand up a little too fast. So why does this even happen? It's all about your circulatory system. Your blood vessels are actually dilating to handle all that increased blood flow, and that can cause a slight temporary drop in your blood pressure. And that's exactly what can bring on that dizziness or those nagging headaches. And our final sign, number 6, is a little shout out to your digestive system. You might feel really uncomfortably bloated, gassy, or find yourself more constipated than usual. It can seriously feel like everything has just slowed way down. And guess who's back to explain this one? Progesterone. It has a relaxing effect on your smooth muscles, and that includes the walls of your intestines. This slows everything down, which, while it feels pretty crummy for you, is actually fantastic for a potential pregnancy. It gives your body more time to absorb all the nutrients. A little tip to get some relief, upping your water and fiber can really help. So we've gone through 6 pretty distinct physical signs.
But you might be wondering, is this all just a bunch of random feelings? Or is there real science to back this up? Well, let's take a look at the hormonal story that's happening behind the scenes.
Check out this number right here. According to medical studies, a staggering 80% of women experience at least one of these early signs before a missed period. That is not a small group of people. That is the vast majority. It just goes to show you that your body is often talking to you long before you might think it would.
So the bottom line is, the science absolutely validates these feelings. Hormones like HCG and our old friend progesterone are the engines driving all these changes, and they're hard at work well before a period is even missed. But, and this is so important to remember, every woman's body is different. You might experience all 6 of these signs, or maybe just one, or maybe none at all. There is no one-size-fits-all script for this. Okay, so we've talked about the signs, we've talked about the science. But what are the actual next steps? Let's get really practical and talk about how you move from just having a hunch to getting a certain answer.
Here is your 4-step plan. First, just observe. Pay attention to what your body is telling you without jumping to any big conclusions. Second, and I know this is the absolute hardest part, you have to wait. For the most accurate test result, you really should wait until the day your period is actually due. Third, it's time to test, using a home pregnancy test. And finally, step 4, no matter what happens, consult your doctor. They can confirm any result and help you figure out what's next. As we start to wrap this all up, I want to leave you with one final thought. All of these signs, all of this science, it really all boils down to one simple but really powerful idea. Your body is always communicating with you. Sometimes it shouts, for sure, but in these super early days, it often just whispers. Those little twinges, that wave of fatigue, think of them as little data points. Learning how to listen to those whispers is probably the most powerful tool you have to understand what's really happening inside your own body. So now I want to turn it over to you. For those of you who have been through this, what was that very first sign that made you wonder? The one that made you go, Drop it in the comments below, because your story might be exactly the thing that someone else needs to hear today. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.